Hey everybody, this is Conrad from 8Dio, and today I am going to walk you through the new 1969 Legacy Grand Piano. So you can hear right there from the top that this is a gorgeous sounding piano throughout its entire range. And so what we've done is taken the old library and given it a huge makeover and added a ton of really powerful new features. And that's kind of what I want to go over today. It's going to be slightly unconventional because what I want to do in showing you all of these tools is be able to show the spectrum of sounds you can get out of it. And so we're taking this regular piano library and I want to turn it into something that doesn't really sound like a piano at all. So we're going to go through the interface top to bottom. At the top here in these boxes, you can see a series of articulations that we have. And it's hard to describe all of these, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to improvise little things in each one so you can hear what they sound like. So the first up is staccato, and what we did is sample true staccato samples. And this is very important in pianos, because while I'm on the default patch right here, if I try to play staccato on this, it definitely doesn't sound bad, but let's just play a little figure with the staccato articulation. You hear it's just tighter, punchier, crisper, and let's play the same thing back on default. So it's definitely not bad. There's just a certain magic when you use true staccato samples. So now we're going to go into some of our pre-made effects. And these patches are super cool. Some of them will do really interesting things as you hold a chord out. Some of them will affect the attacks. And some of them will do both. So because I can't explain them in words, let's just listen to each one. First up we have reversed, and I can say right now this is probably my favorite. Just listen to what happens as I hold this chord out. That's just so cool. Okay, let's move on. That one does some really cool things with the tail again. So you can see that a ton of these, they're just so cool and unique. And there's a lot of creativity you can pull off with these things. Now, that brings us to our first feature. So I mentioned that I really liked what reverse did when I held a chord out. And I love suppress when you hit those low notes, those big punchy attacks. So let's say I want to combine those. In the past, what you would have to do is pretty much load the patch twice, and then crossfade, blend them, and all sorts of editing. But what we can do now, I'll go ahead and choose suppress. Down here we have this little link button. If I click that, I can now also click on reversed. And now when I hold out a big chord, I get the best of both worlds. And there is no limit on the link. I can click every single one of these. And we will get a very unique sound. Already we are straying away from the regular piano sound, which is what I'm trying to do. But we still have a lot more features to cover because we've only hit the top here. So you may have seen me accidentally click these little A-B boxes here, and I'll get to those in just a second. What I'm going to do right now is we're just going to go back to our default piano sound. You know, it's still there, it hasn't left us. So when we come down to this next little module here, you'll see it has A highlighted. And then we have these controllable knobs and outer rings. So these affect different parameters. So for instance, you can see panorama down here, amp envelope, pitch envelope. If you want to know what the knob and the ring control, if you just put your mouse over it, you'll see for panorama, the outer ring controls width and the knob controls pan. And then we can also reset it there, or next to that little question mark, you can completely randomize the settings here. So already we're having a bit more fun. So let's go ahead and reset that, because what I can do is I can also come over to B and set these controls independently. So I'll just hit randomize, and you'll see when I go back to A, those controls are unaffected. So this now brings us back to the link button. So let's say I chose default and I also wanted to add infinity because it does some really cool things to the tails of chords. Well, let's say I want infinity to sound a bit wider, maybe give it a little bit of drive and a slower attack. What I can do now is change infinity to B. And when I come down to B in this module, I'll go ahead and widen it up. I'll slow down the attack. Let's also make it have a high decay so it really fades out. And just a touch of drive. So now, when I hit a chord, let me go ahead and change those real time. You can hear that the default articulation, the regular piano sound, hasn't changed because I have set infinity to B and only changed the B portion of this module. I can go back to A and affect that, so we'll set the amp envelope to a very long attack, and let's lower the width. And we'll add a lot of drive. So there's a lot of flexibility there. We can shape multiple sounds at once, and we can still use as many links as we want. We can set any of them to B, any of them to A, and those controls will affect whichever choices appropriately. So let's go ahead and hit randomize just for some fun on each one. So you've just added another layer of complete tonal control. Now, next up we have our LFOs. So I turn on the regular filter LFO, and this controls the filter down in our effects section. If I just hold a chord right now, I'll leave infinity and default on. And we can also adjust these ourselves. You can draw across or you can click independently. And you also have a randomize button here. So let's just give that a few clicks. And now let me hold that chord down again. So you could use this for some real cool rhythmic possibilities, and you can also change the speed here. So let's speed it up. But you'll notice next to that we have an AB LFO. And this goes back to our AB module. So we have infinity set on B. Let's hit the random button on that a few times. And now let's hold it. You can hear it was modulating in between the A and B tones. In fact, I'll add another one on each A and B. And we can do the same thing here, randomize. You can hear it's getting these real cool moving textures. And once again, this is also tempo synced, so I can come here. So now we've added some really cool rhythmic textures on top of all these tonal controls, and you can use both of them at the same time. So now you're creating some really cool rhythmic sounds and pulsing pads and whatever possibilities you want with the LFO. You can make it subtle, you can make it drastic. It's up to you. And we can come back and hit our reset buttons there. And we'll turn the LFOs off for now. Let's quickly talk about the microphone positions. So right here you see 3 microphone positions. You have your overheads, your keys, and your damp. Let's go ahead and turn all these on, and we'll solo each one. I have a small little piano loop. So here's just the overheads. And now let's go to the keys. And you can hear the sustain pedal actually being put down, which adds another sense of realism to this. Let's go to the damp. Actually does not stop there, because the library also comes with a second patch, 1969 aux, which has the same controls and features but has 3 other microphone positions. So we'll do the same thing there. We have spot mics, ambient mics, and room mics. So we'll start with the spot mics. Let's go to the ambient mics. Next we'll do the room mics. And then it just becomes a blend to taste. So once again, a lot of tonal control. So let's go back to just one mic position. We'll bump it up just a little bit. And now let's go over the effects section. So you can first off see the filter, which I alluded to in the filter LFO. And you can assign any of these to a MIDI CC controller of your choice. With the filter, it's by default set to a low pass filter. But you can change the filter type by coming to this little arrow. My personal favorite is talk. I think that one's just really fun. You can also bypass it. And same with the AV control sections. If you want to know what the outer ring and inner knob control, you just have to hover your mouse over it. Now you notice the outer ring of gate is a little different, so let's jump into that one. So what you do is actually click on these little outer ring sections to turn them on and off. So I'll just do every other one, turn it off. And I'll turn the mix all the way up so you can hear what it's doing. So it's creating this cool pulsing tremolo sound. And what we can actually do is turn the mix down, and we can get that kind of going underneath the sound. So sort of a subtle movement. But what if we turn other ones on and some of them off? So we're back at 100 mix. So what you can do is basically build your own pulse. And by coming to this arrow here, we can change the rate. So now let's get a little wild. Let's turn our filter LFO back on. We'll choose another low pass filter. We'll randomize this. And we can get some really cool rhythmic stuff going on there. Really experimental, or you can go a little more conservative with it, maybe every other eighth note, or, you know, it's up to you. Let's reset them. Let's turn off the LFOs. I'll just turn the mix down on this for now. We then have pitch knobs. Which, if you set that to a MIDI CC, you could probably get some really cool piano motorcycle sounds. Or just cool riser effects. And we can also hit the reset here. I just know that I might go a bit crazy in controls and I'll forget where I started. You have your delays. A compressor, and then form is a really cool one. I like to call this a convolution reverb of places that don't exist. And to show you what I mean, you can choose your location here, and you can see these are some pretty unique names. I like the mega horns. Let's go Titanic, and let's turn the form way up. Some really cool things. Let's also delay it a bit. So we're sort of entering alien territory. And then next to that we have an equalizer. Now these effects and the equalizer, if you want further control of them, you can come over to the effects back page. And you can see the controls for transform, delay, EQ. You also have a degrader and a phaser in here to control, as well as a reverb. So with all these controls, now that we've covered them, let's go back to main. Let's just hit random on all of these. Let's turn the filters on. And for the heck of it, let's just see what kind of crazy sounds we can get. Hit randomize on this a few times. Randomize our AB LFO, our filter LFO. And let's just go ahead. Well, we got to turn form all the way up, right? And let's just hit a chord and see what happens. So do you remember where we started from? Just had that gorgeous lush piano sound, and we turned it into something alien. And that is the power of this update. You're getting that same original beautiful sound, and you can also take it a step further with all of these adventures. So be sure to head over to 8dio.com and check out the 1969 Legacy Grand Piano for yourself.